As the election of Donald Trump as the 45th President of the United States became certain, many Americans grew concerned about the future of renewable energy incentives. Fearing that the incoming administration might end or reduce government support for solar energy, numerous customers hurriedly installed solar panels to take full advantage of the existing tax credits and subsidies. Over the past few years, solar energy has been a major success story in the United States, with the sector making up more than half of all new electricity generation added to the U.S. grid in recent years. This growth was partly fueled by significant government incentives, including tax credits, grants, and favorable policies that made solar power more affordable for American homeowners and businesses. However, with the incoming administration of Donald Trump, many feared that these incentives could be reduced or eliminated altogether, placing solar energy development at risk. Trump's presidency posed a particular threat to the future of the solar market, as his administration indicated it might enact tariffs on solar panels and equipment imported from other countries, particularly China. This move could have increased the cost of solar panel installations for many customers, making them less financially viable. In fact, during his campaign, Trump proposed imposing tariffs as high as 60% on Chinese imports and 20% on all other goods entering the U.S. market. These potential tariffs, combined with Trump's skeptical stance on climate change and clean energy policies, left many wondering what the future held for solar energy in the country. One of the main concerns was that under Trump's leadership, existing federal programs aimed at promoting renewable energy could be scaled back or scrapped entirely. For example, it was speculated that Trump might seek to cancel or cut funding for climate-related initiatives, such as those implemented by former President Obama and continued by President Biden. The Republican-controlled Congress at the time gave Trump significant leverage to pursue such changes. In contrast, President Joe Biden's administration would take a different approach. In 2022, Biden signed the Inflation Reduction Act, IRA, which provided billions of dollars in subsidies for solar and wind energy over the next decade. The IRA was part of a broader effort by the U.S. to transition its power sector to a carbon-free future by 2035 and to combat the effects of climate change. This law was a major step forward in securing a more sustainable energy future for the country. But for many solar energy users, the uncertainty surrounding the future of these incentives under Trump's administration made it urgent to act before the potential shift in policy. Goldman Sachs even predicted that renewable energy would likely be one of the industries hardest hit by Trump's policies, especially if tariffs were imposed and tax incentives for clean energy were reduced. Jorge Solares, a Massachusetts resident, installed solar panels on his suburban Boston home during the summer of the previous year. Solares, like many others, viewed solar power as not just an environmental benefit but a financial one as well. Solar energy doesn't emit greenhouse gases that contribute to global warming like fossil fuels do, and it helps me save money on my electricity bills, he said. For Solares and his family, this investment was more than just a way to reduce their carbon footprint, it also provided significant financial relief. Our family welcomed a new member, and installing solar panels means I don't have to worry about paying high electricity bills and can focus more on spending for my kids, Solares explained. He noted that the panels had helped reduce his electricity costs within just 5 to 6 years, and after that period, the family would essentially no longer have to pay for electricity at all. However, with the outcome of the 2016 election, Solares' plans for the future grew uncertain. Although he had hoped that the incentives would remain, the victory of Trump meant that the fate of clean energy incentives and their impact on his solar panel investment was now in jeopardy. Throughout the 2016 campaign, Trump made clear his commitment to boosting oil and gas production in the U.S., despite the country already being the largest oil producer in the world. In a speech at the New York Economic Club in September of that year, Trump indicated that he would cancel any unspent funding from the Inflation Reduction Act, further raising concerns among clean energy advocates. While Trump's comments did not directly address the future of tax incentives for solar energy, the potential changes to U.S. energy policies under his administration were alarming for homeowners and companies in the solar industry. The 30% federal tax credit for solar installations was particularly important for individuals like Solares, who saved around $8,000 thanks to the incentive. Without this tax break, the cost of installing solar panels would have been much higher, and it may have taken years longer for homeowners to see any return on their investment. The financial incentive makes a huge difference, Solares said. Without it, installing solar would have been too expensive for me to consider. He also shared that the installation process for solar panels on his home took several months due to testing, permitting, and the actual setup. In light of the potential policy changes under Trump, Solares urged his installation company to complete the installation before 2024 to take advantage of the existing incentives. This rush to install solar panels was not limited to individual homeowners. Solar installation companies across the U.S. also faced significant challenges, as the looming possibility of increased tariffs and changes in tax incentives threatened the financial viability of their business models. Some companies began to stockpile solar panels in anticipation of the potential cost increase due to tariffs. This strategy allowed them to lock in prices before the changes took effect, ensuring that they could still provide competitive prices for their customers. Doug Edwards, the president of Exact Solar, a company based in Newtown, Pennsylvania, explained that his company had stockpiled a significant amount of solar panels before the tariff increases. If the 20% tariff on imports takes effect, it would make solar installation projects unprofitable for us, Edwards said. By securing inventory in advance, the company hoped to continue offering affordable installations without passing on the higher costs to their customers. Stephen Irvin, a member of the Amicus Solar Cooperative, also shared concerns about the rising costs of solar panels. He noted that more than 80 member companies would have to deal with higher panel prices, which could prevent them from hiring additional employees or even force them to lay off staff to reduce costs. The uncertain policy environment posed a significant risk to the long-term sustainability of the solar industry, particularly for small and medium-sized businesses that were most vulnerable to these changes.